Evening everyone, welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. Yes, I'm back to blonde. Brunette, redhead, gorgeous colours, just not, I'm far too pale for those colours. But I hope you're all okay out there and you've had a good week. And it's very hot here. We're having like our little mini heat wave that we have here in England, and it consists of 3 days of intense can't breathe heat, and then it'll start raining for a month and be really cold. Very random this show. It just sums up the year, doesn't it? But I hope you're all okay out there. And tonight I'd like to look at a show. I've done a couple of stories from this, and it's Britain's Killer Kids with Jo Frost. Remember the lady from Super Nanny? She really is good in this. She really is. She's quite interesting. I suppose because she works with other experts as well, so she's really good. And it's the story of Michael Hamer and Joe Geeling. Now, it's such a sad story. Michael Hamer, he was born on the 9th of May 1991 in Greater Manchester, a town called Bury in Greater Manchester, obviously in England. And just his dad had left before he was even born, and apparently it was said he didn't really get on with his mum either. Just a very quiet, withdrawn boy, quite lonely in school. And there is a girl on the show who went to school with Michael Hamer and Joe Geeling, and she said when she describes him, she just says like a little bit weird, just in the way he'd stare at her when she's walking down the corridor. Not necessarily her, just anyone. And Michael was unfortunately bullied through a lot of his school life. You know what it's like in school, kids just sense different, don't they? And like I say, because he was quite quiet, he was quite awkward. It was said possibly he had a low IQ. So Michael, by the time he gets to senior school, which is a school called St Gabriel's, during his time in senior school, like I say, very awkward, constantly bullied. And when Michael was 11, now I've gone back and forward on this, I think it's year 10. I think it would make him year 10. He only kind of hung about with the year 7s. It was said that he was on their level. You know, he hadn't sort of gone past that year 7 stage, you know, where they've just got out of junior school and stuff. He never quite made it past there with his peers. So yeah, his school days were trying to impress year 7s basically, which made him more of a target within his own peer group really. Now Joe Geeling was in year 7, and he was 11. Now it looks like Michael's 14 in year 10, Joe's 11 in year 7. And the complete polar opposite of Michael, complete polar opposite. Even though he was younger, see, Joe was born with cystic fibrosis, and it was said that he just didn't slow him down at all. It was said, you know, he lived life at 100 miles an hour. He was cute, very, very cute. If you look at his photos, such a cutie, such a lovely smile. And he was just really bright, he was clever, he was fun, he was popular. He said he loved dirt biking. He was really funny, and his family, he come from a really loving family. Mum, dad, little brother who idolised him. And yeah, just in every possible way that is to be opposite, Joe was to Michael. And because of Michael's kind of need to impress younger kids, just to feel accepted, I suppose, he came across Joe, obviously being a year 7, And the girl who's on the show said that Joe did genuinely like Michael. He got on with him. But by the spring of 2006, Michael had become obsessed with Joe. Like, it had stepped over just him trying to impress Joe. Like, Joe had kind of impressed him without knowing it, and he started to become obsessed with him. Again, like I said, because they're so opposite, he's kind of... Joe's everything Michael could want to be, including his home life. Like, he was just such a special boy and had everything, and Michael just became really jealous. So on March the 1st, 2006, Michael, who was Joe's mentor in school, and he gave Joe a note, and it was made to look like it was from the deputy head. It's very conniving. And it said that it was from Joe's mum, basically saying she'd be late or something, and that Joe was to go home with Michael, and she would pick him up from Michael's at 4:30, signed by the deputy head. You know, looked very authentic to Joe anyway. Sorry, to Joe's obviously young self, it would have seemed authentic and he wouldn't have questioned it. But a teacher in one of the last lessons of the day, I think, overheard Joe telling one of his friends that he'd be going back to Michael's after school, and that he'd had a letter from, must have named the deputy head. And she overhears this and she asks Joe about it, and he shows her the letter that Michael had given him. Spot straight away, smells her out straight away. And she says to Joe, I want you to go straight to the deputy head's office, sit outside there, show the deputy head obviously the letter, and whatever you do not go back to Michael's. Now, I don't know if it's because she was that shocked at this letter and wanted to know more about it, or maybe she thought Michael was a bit weird. I don't know. That's not elaborated on. And although Joe is seen sat outside the deputy head's office, so he did do as he's told, Michael walks past and sees him there and asks him what's going on. And he kind of says, oh, you know, teacher questioned it. I think he must have told him the truth. And Michael talked him round to come away from the deputy head's office. But as they're walking through the corridor, this particular teacher comes across the pair, and she starts talking to him, starts talking to Michael, and, you know, it said that she was about to get to look what's going on, and the fire alarm goes off, and it says it was kind of it wasn't even a drill, it was like a prank. There was no need for it to go off, but it went off. Everyone obviously had to go to their designated spots, and then it was the end of the day, and the teacher doesn't get to the two of them again, and Joe walks home with Michael. Now, the girl on the show, who, like I said, was friends with both of them, she used to walk home with Joe, and she was the one who said he was just hilarious, even at his young age, because I think she was in Michael's year, but she says he was just infectious. He was just really, really, really funny. And she's seen Joe leaving the school kind of ahead of her, but she's seen him turn the opposite way to the way they would normally walk. And she does break down on the show, because she says, you know, if I'd have just, you know, caught up and asked what was going on, or, you know, anything, but she says she didn't really think much of it. She thought enough to notice it, but she didn't think anything sinister in him going a different way. And it is a shame, because she says, you know, I think about that a lot. Could I have changed, you know, the direction it was going? And, you know, that's such a shame that guilt's on her for that aspect, because, you know, who's to say Michael wouldn't have talked her right around, it was a shame to think that she's got that kind of guilt, really, for something that she was a child. It was something she could never have foreseen what was going on, ever. So when, like I say, when he's seen her, and then she's seen them, and then a couple of other people come forward, like later down the line, and said that they'd seen Michael walking ahead and Joe kind of a couple of steps behind. And on the show it gives you like a map, and Michael obviously walks home from school, but it's a fair little trek where he walks him round. And they get back to Michael's, it said, at 4:15. And by 4:30, 15 minutes, Joe Geeling was dead. 15 minutes, that was it. Oh, it's just such a shame. Now, by 5:30, because Joe had such a close relationship with his parents, by 5:30, he wasn't home, and they called the police straight away. Now, because of his age, he's only 11, it's winter, it's so cold, he's only a little thing. They get a manhunt underway straight away, try and find this little boy, because it's so unlike him. They said, he always came, that there had to be something wrong. And you've got a couple of the people on the show who were brought in, and it said that, they worked tirelessly through the night. Not only the police and locals, all out to try and find this little boy. He had family with the fire department, so there was a lot of firemen there and women joining the search, trying to find this little boy. And it said that at 3:00, they told everyone to go home, have a couple of hours sleep, because it said, these people had all been at work all day, they'd come home, obviously gone straight out looking for little Joe. And yeah, they called it off at 3:00. And they they decided to take it up the following morning. The following morning at 11:30, Michael is taken out of school. He's brought to the police station, and he stays very, very calm. Michael does, very calm. At 10:30, the reason obviously they'd caught on to Michael is the teachers come forward, obviously said, about this note. She knew it was Michael, thought he might know a few things. So that's how he got brought in. That was at 11:30 a.m. By 10:30 p.m, he confesses to Joe's murder. And he explains what actually happened was, when they came into the house, he actually had kind of a it was more than looking at an obsession with Joe. He had sexual aspects of it, and it said that he made a pass at Joe, and it must have been the second he walked in the door, gotta have been. And Joe, like any 11-year-old, year 7, it's like, are you mad? Like, you're gay? Straight away. And just basically says, I'm going to tell everyone at school. And Michael was just so, he must have just panicked at the thought of, he's got this life at school as it is, and this embarrassment of Joe going in. And I think it was kind of, maybe it just wasn't how he thought it was gonna go, and he's just switched completely. And he grabs a frying pan, and he hits Joe so hard that it breaks. This frying pan does. And it said it's upstairs, so I'm not too sure. Did he have the frying pan ready? Like, I'm not too sure why that's upstairs. And the reason I say that is because it said that he then goes downstairs, grabs 2 knives, not one, 2, and it said at any time during that point he could have stopped and maybe got Joe help, but he doesn't. He goes down the stairs. Don't forget, this lad's 14. He's got a lad of 11 on his bedroom floor. And looks like rather than getting any help, he grabs 2 knives, goes back up the stairs, and he stabs little Joe 16 times. You know, oh, he must have been terrified. Now, he doesn't panic. He says he was very calm. It's the way he described it, so obviously he was calm. He drags Joe from his bedroom down the stairs, outside his house, puts him in a wheelie bin, then wheels Joe all through little gullies and everything to a park, and it's called Whitehead Park, and there's a wooded area, and he tips Joe out, covers him up with some twigs and some old cushions, and takes the wheelie bin and heads home. And it said that he would have had an hour to get the house obviously cleaned up before his mum got home, and he just went about cleaning up. It said that he would have seen Joe as just a problem, just something he's got to just clean up. This is how his mind works. And he, like I say, goes back to the house, he cleans up, cleans his bedroom, the stairs, and when his mum does come in, it said that she spots red on the floor in the carpet, and just like that, he said that he had a red pen that had leaked and he'd been trying to clean it up. Unbelievable. Now at 10:30, at 10:30, Thursday, March 7, 2006, Joe's found. So it happens on March the 1st, on the Wednesday, and it was March the 2nd. So he was found very quickly. You know, thank God it was the next morning. And it must have been devastating for his parents. But what was really sad on the show, it says that even though he was found so quickly, because they had to investigate so much, he had to stay out there another 2 nights. I mean, imagine being his parents. You know, you couldn't imagine it. You know, it just compounds it even more that you can't get him into the one. It's just so sad. It really is. And like I say, at 10:30 p.m, Michael confesses to Joe's murder. And on the Monday, March the 6th, Saturday, March the 4th, Michael's charged with Joe's murder. And on Monday, March the 6th, 2006, his parents did like a really emotional press conference. Whenever I do these stories, it's the fact it's a child that's done it. It's one of his peers. He looked up to, he was called his mentor, and the girl on the show said he liked him. Joe liked Michael, and to just betray him in the worst possible way, you know, it just must be devastating. So psychologists do get involved, obviously, with Michael being so young, and you know, the premeditated aspect of what he did with the note. There was a sexual note found at Michael's house, and although he'd admitted what he'd done, he confessed to it, he avoided the sexual aspect of it. He wanted to distance himself from that. So on October the 16th, 2006, the trial starts, and well, it begins to start, and Joe's family are very dignified. Everyone's like, there's quite a few people on the show, and all of them say the same thing. They just said they conducted themselves so lovely. And Michael pleads guilty. He actually, he does. He pleads guilty. He doesn't even try to go for any sort of, head disorder. Now, what they do say is that he might have an adjustment disorder. And there is someone on the show that says, like an expert who says it's not the same as, something under the autistic spectrum, Asperger's, it's not the same as being psycho, it's not on that level. It's kind of a grey area, adjustment disorder is, and it's said to go back to his dad leaving him before he was born. Could that have had anything to do with it? But, it was all very... I think they were scraping the barrel, trying to find some sort of answer to why would this happen. It's the same as Kim Edwards, killed a mum. It's, any of these ones, it's just, they're so methodical how they go about it. They're just so matter of fact, and they do say that it's something to do with their frontal cortex. I'm not even going to try. I can't, because anyone who does know what I'm trying to say will probably know that I've got it very wrong, but it's the frontal lobe vortex or something. It's not matured. It's not. So they're very emotional and spontaneous, but they don't think through consequences at that age. Like, that part of their brain hasn't, look, what's the word? That part of their brain hasn't matured. It hasn't matured. Sorry, complete brain block there. That's me trying to put a little scientific, biological, whatever spin on it. I need to stop. I do need to stop throwing my own little things in there. Yeah, so he's pled guilty, and he's given, so it's obviously straight to sentence, no jury or anything. He's given 12 years minimum. He's 14. So they appealed it. Obviously, the family were outraged at this. Absolutely outraged at it. And they appealed it. And it did get increased to 15 years. He'd be 29. 29. Poor little Joe. It sounds like, when you hear them talking about him and you hear how the family described him, it's like he really could have contributed a lot to society, and really, like, had a really good life. And then you had more, and I find myself torn slow. No, do I find myself torn? Because he's 14, and it's like, just to talk about him, like, but how can you talk nicely about someone who's done that, even though technically they're a child? But at 14, I knew right from wrong, and when they can say there's some psychological disorder, you can kind of be like, well, would it have happened? But they can't even give him that. There's not even that. It's just like, he got knocked back, so I'm going to get rid of this problem. And I'm going to go to school the next day, even though I know everyone's aware this lad's missing, everyone's looking for him. And I'm going to carry on like perfectly normal. That's what everyone says. So he was just as weird as normal. It's how he's described. And it's just so sad. The family have set up a charity in Joe's name. And obviously tried to, make sure he didn't die in vain, and, get themselves through. And I think it's so lovely. I've said it before, when families go on to do something like that, because I don't know, you just feel like, just closing all the curtains, window, never coming out again. It's just so sad. And again, with this show, what Joe Frost tries to, shouldn't try, she kind of asks at the end is, do these experts believe it's nature or nurture? And it's looking more and more in a few of the stories I've done that it's not it's not the nurture side. Were they born evil? Because in both of this story and the last story I did, it's like okay, Michael was bullied. He was, he was strange, but to that degree, no one says he was hit every day, or he was he wasn't abused at home. There's not that kind of where they always go back and say they had this upbringing and they were physically or mentally or sexually abused. Again, that's not the case. So is it nature? Can you believe that someone's just born bad? And that's really sad if that is a thing. So I understand where Jo Frost is coming from, where she tries to find a reason for this child being the way they are, because to think that a child can be born that way is quite scary, really, when you think about it, because it means no matter what you do within their home structure and their peer structure, they're always gonna turn out bad. Oh, I don't know. I've gone off on a ramble there. It's a thinker. It is a thinker, I think. But yes, thank you for joining me again. That was Britain's Killer Kids with Jo Frost. If you do want to have a look at it, they are really interesting. There's quite a few. There's one girl. Is it Britain's Killer Kids? I think it is. Sharon Carr. I don't know if you've heard of that girl. Ooh, I think she was 12 when she did what she did. I'll have a look at that one for you. I can't think of it properly off the top of my head, but I just remember being so shocked by it. Thank you for joining me. If you've got any comments, or if you'd like to like the video or even subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If there's any you'd like to look at, I've had a couple of my subscribers suggest a couple for me to look at, so I'll definitely look at doing them soon. And just enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.